Hey, before we go live, I just want to do a quick thank you to our YouTube members on the top tier. Currently, this is disabled. We're having some issues with the YouTube donations and tips and super chats and stuff like that. It is currently down. Hopefully it comes back soon. Having some issues when it comes to the collecting process and setting up, but there is people who have paid for the month, so I want to give them thanks. A world champ level A, triple crown champ Parma Chisel, Freak Maniac at 90210, and Raz as our grand slam. There are ways you can still support. Links below. You can grab some merchandise, or there's tips and donations in there as well until the YouTube thing gets back up and rolling. I apologize. We'll get it fixed very soon. But let's get into our episode of the ABJ Podcast, episode 134 with Eddie Collins. Here's some music by the Converse Kid.
This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What's going on, everybody? We are back and live on YouTube, Facebook, all the great places for another episode of the ABJ Podcast, episode 134 with my boy, Eddie Collins. Super excited for this one. Haven't seen him in a while. He's all over the world traveling, doing cool things, and that's what we're going to talk about today is chasing his dreams as a musician and in the world of music. So many questions I have and so many layers to that I can't wait to get into with Eddie. If you guys want to support, make sure you go and check out the links below for all things ABJ. Follow me on social media. You can grab some merchandise as well as follow Eddie on social media. We didn't put up there because he only told me to use his Instagram, but he does have a Twitch channel too, and I'm sure we'll talk about here because it does come up in one of the line of questionings because he had a cool little viral. It should have went more viral, but a cool moment that we'll go into. But without further ado, let's bring him in. By the way, this episode is super cool. Like, I've had people do them in their cars. I've had people do them, at their houses. Never at Hucklebucks. This is really fun. So shout out to one of my favorite places in the world, in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, Hucklebucks. Let's bring in Eddie Collins. What's going on, bud?
What's up, buddy? How's it going?
This is long overdue. We haven't done this in a long time.
It is, yeah, for sure. Hey, baby. See, this is what happens when you do it at a bar.
But yeah, well, listen, I appreciate your time because you are a very, very busy man, and honestly, there's a lot of people that like, how come you don't have this person on or this person on? And it really comes down to, I know what it takes to take time away from people to chase your dreams and do your jobs and do what you got to do. And when you are home, your time is valuable and it should be with the people you love and not doing dumb podcasts, But so I really appreciate you taking your time out to do this and making it work. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Anytime. Any chance I get to, talk with you or do whatever, I'm always down. I just also promised Amber that I'd get wings with her tonight, so we're doing the best of both worlds.
I love it. You're absolutely killing it. we're making it work.
We are.
Yeah. So recently, where were you just recently at tour wise?
We just got back from Latin and South America, so it was a trip. It was an interesting trip.
Now you've done where have all you've done? So you've done American tours, you've done some Canadian ones, some European tours.
Yep. America, Canada, UK, and like Eastern Europe. Now South America, Latin America. Hoping, think next year, hopefully getting to Japan and Australia, and if
you need someone just to carry a bag, let me know. I'll carry a bag.
Funny enough, that we had a situation like that happened on this last tour that we almost had to hire, basically fly a couple people to another show so we could check the amount of bags and that we had to check on the plane. It was ridiculous, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, listen, if anyone never needs a guy to just come and carry a bag, and I can vlog and record things with a GoPro, hit me up. I'm ready to go. I have nothing going on. That honestly, that's one of my bucket lists. I would love to do a tour with a like. I'm not talking like on your scale, the world tour stuff, but like a local tour. Like, hey, we're doing a month or a couple weeks. We're gonna go drive around, live in a van. Like, I just want to experience that life once to see what it's about and just like document
Yeah,
it. You know?
dude, for sure. I think you'd have a good time with it. It's definitely not for everyone. Uh,
Hmm.
people see the travel and like the going to different areas and they're like, oh wow, that seems really cool. You get to see all this different stuff, and it's like, nah. Most of the time, I'm like, I could tell you the best gas stations to stop at, or
Hmm.
the best venue showers or something like that, because there's a lot of times that we don't get to venture outside of the venue or the bus or the van or whatever.
Yeah. No, I kind of have a small taste of that with pro wrestling, where like you go do a show and it's just like, oh, this show you have to use porta johns. And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, that's where we
Yeah,
are. Like yeah,
yeah, dude.
I didn't get to explore the neighborhood. I just got to go and work and getting out. But
Exactly.
like I think as a filmer, I can maybe step out of that role of like the work mode for me is encapsulating the work for everybody else, if that makes sense. Like
No, for sure. Yeah, that makes
yeah.
total sense.
Yeah. So you said this tour was interesting. Was it challenging because of the location?
Uh, yeah. There's so with a tour like what we just did, there's a lot of elements, a lot of logistics and stuff at play, and it's not it's not one of the easiest tours to put together, you know. Um, but we also did something I've never seen before, where we were carrying. So every show was like a fly day, a show day, a fly day, a show day, a fly day. Basically for 3 weeks, and then we had one day off at the very end when we were in Brazil. Uh, so our gear wasn't being freighted, as like it wasn't being put on a truck and then driven, country to country. We were flying with our gear every
Wow.
day, and we had including like personal bags and everything, something like 55 pieces that we were checking in every single day when we'd go to the airport. So we'd have to be there like 5 hours before our boarding time to check in all of these bags and go through the whole process. And then we get on the plane, fly to wherever we're going, go and get all the gear from the fucking carousels or from the oversized pickup. And then we take all that gear, load it into a truck, and then we go either to the hotel or we drop the gear at the venue. And then the next day we go in early, set up, do the show, tear everything down, back in a truck. Next day, back to the airport, do it all over again.
Wow.
It's incredibly trying.
Yeah,
It was one of the hardest
one
tours.
logistical mess up is the make or break for an entire show.
Exactly, dude. Like one of those pieces of gear doesn't show up, or something's damaged, or whatever. It could be a total showstopper. And it was,
Wow.
it was a lot, man.
Now,
It's super difficult.
now what band was this tour for?
This was Anthrax.
For Anthrax.
Yeah, yeah. It
Now
was it was pretty crazy.
how no, I'm not like obviously if there's anything personal in this question you don't have to answer. I've only ever met I believe the one dude from Anthrax when you guys toured with when you were part of Crowbot and you toured with the Damn Things. I believe
Oh,
what's
okay.
his name from
Scott.
Anthrax was Scott.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest, he was the only one visually that I knew was from another band because
Yeah.
he's a very like you remember when you see him you remember him forever.
Exactly, dude.
How is Anthrax when it comes to this process? So like when you're a part of the band, your job is essentially show up, play, and leave. How hands are they? How hands on are they when it comes to this logistical side of things as a band?
Man, not very involved, and that's because they've been doing this for 40 plus years now, and it's at the point where that's why we're there. We're there to make all this stuff happen. The tour manager, the business management, all those people get together to figure out logistics of everything, and then the crew is there to pick up the slack on that, and we do all the manual labor and stuff, and it's just how that goes. But it's the job. We get paid to do it, so
That's super. Honestly, it'd be hard to say like at my level if I ever got to like. I don't even like letting someone carry in my equipment bag when I'm doing this. Like, I couldn't imagine getting to a point where like, don't lose that, because that's everything I need to do that. Like
Yeah.
I would be too manic. I would be. I don't know if I'd be able to give up the reins on that.
Dude,
I would be.
trust me, man. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure
Mhm.
for sure. Like I said, something happens, something gets lost, damage. It could stop the show, or it can make the show very, very difficult. So
Yeah.
like, it's a
So
lot
so
on
let's
those.
let's rewind here a little bit to kind of paint a picture of Eddie, if you're not listening, or maybe you don't know the story, or you're people don't know who Eddie is. So myself and Eddie, we met. I couldn't even tell you where or how when it came about. It like I can't recall back to the day we met. It was so long ago, and we've had so many memories in between that. I can't pinpoint the
Yeah,
moment
dude.
at all.
I can't either. I'm trying to think of where it had to have been, probably tripping.
I
You
don't think it
know, if
was.
no,
I
I'm not
honestly, the
sure.
only my introduction to the local music scene was when my cousin Roach, he was a
Mhm.
tattoo artist in Hazleton. He was really close to Jaybird and that
Okay.
crew with Cyanide. And
Mhm.
my local music scene was two shows. I went to a Head Plug show in some bar in
Mhm.
like Freeland, and then he brought me a couple weeks late because he knew I had such a good time at the Head Plug show. I was like, "Yo, this local music scene's sick. Like, I loved it."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Awesome, I'll take you to more places." And he brought me to Goodfellas, and I remember paying $5 to get in, and it was like two opening bands. It was and then the three
One
bands
second.
were you're good.
What was that again? I think she is. Yeah. Yeah. That it should be fine. Thank you.
uh
Sorry.
and that's all right. And the other three bands were Faith and Exile, Crowbot, and Cyanide Sunrise. And it was Cyanide Sunrise our music video release party, and it
Oh
was
my
like
god.
these three sick bands. I just remember everyone from the local music scene being there, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the pinpoint of where I kind of met someone for the first time. But I was just a passing face, and then just keep
Yeah.
going to local music shows. That's when I started like meeting everybody.
Dude, I remember that show. I remember being at that show. So
Yeah.
there's
I
a good
still
chance we
have
crossed paths there.
that's what I'm probably thinking is where a
Mhm.
lot of the introductions from the local music scene for me happened, and then from then it was just kind of going to more scenes. But let's kind of rewind a little bit. Music, a huge part of your life. It's always been something around for you. Obviously, you come from a very big musical family. Kind of set a table here of you come from just that music side of that family.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, so my dad, my dad's kind of the one that got. I wouldn't say got. Well, he's the one that introduced us to this world.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody in my family plays or does something, in the music business now, and it all stemmed from him. He was a drummer for years. He was a disc jockey. He toured. And he was musical director with the Drifters in the '70s and or the '80s. I can't remember exactly when he did it. But anyway, it all stems from there. And then my brother Keith ended up being a drummer, singer. My sister Carrie was a drummer, and then my brother Chris was a guitarist and a bass player, and he's the one that kind of molded, me to the point where I'm at now. I guess you could say where like I still have a lot of the influence from my dad and from Keith and Carrie, but like Chris is the one that kind of introduced me to all the bands that I
That's
love
very
now. And
That's very interesting, because that was my next question is like, what line of the family did you like? Did you watch your dad and be like, I want to be like my dad? Did you watch Keith or Carrie and say, oh, or like, but you saying it was kind of Chris who steered you into that more of that direction?
sort of, yeah. I mean, I guess like from watching everybody, I always wanted to play. I always wanted to be on stage and do what they were doing, but it wasn't like growing up in, I was born in '91. So growing up in the '90s, man, we had some of like the coolest music on the radio. It was everything from like, we had like the Gin Blossoms and, fucking Tonic and Fuel and all those bands. But then you also had like, Rage Against the Machine was hitting, in radio stations and like, early Newfound Glory and stuff like that. And then I think that's when it hit me that like, oh shit, there's more than just this like poppy kind of stuff, or there's a harder edge to things. And then that's when my brother kind of introduced me to. I remember listening to like System of a Down and Slipknot and all those bands and Korn and and that kind of just took me in a whole different direction. So honestly, if it wasn't for Chris, I wouldn't be playing the music that I'm playing, or like, doing most of the stuff that I do right now. It's just pretty wild.
Yeah. So in your household growing up, obviously there's instruments everywhere. Like I've been to your dad's house. There's instruments are like coffee tables. You know what I mean? Like there's like an old drum head that
really
is.
is.
Yeah. Like
It's an old Slingerland kick drum.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the coffee
Like,
table.
It's that's essentially like the household you grew up in. Did you have to ask for your first instrument, or was it kind of like, here's a guitar, play it?
Nah, I mean, not really. I don't really remember. So it's funny enough, like the first thing I ever held in my hand was a guitar. From what there's a picture of me after I was born where there's a tiny little plastic guitar in my hand and stuff like that. And I don't think I ever had to ask for an instrument. Maybe I did ask for a guitar, and I remember getting like a tiny Squire mini Strat as like my first real guitar. And I would fall asleep with the thing in bed with me, like I was that attached to it. Anytime anytime I wanted an instrument or something like that, like it was never just kind of handed, like I always had to like do something, like, work and do whatever to get it. Or I would like, save up some money and buy a piece of shit guitar and beat the hell out of it and do whatever. But yeah, it was just always there. It was never forced on us, like nobody in the family was ever forced to play an instrument. Everybody kind of just gravitated towards it.
Yeah. It wasn't like a Jackson 5 situation where your dad was like, pick up that instrument. No, it was, if it's there, go play it. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Keith and Carrie played sports growing up. My dad's not a sports guy at all. So like, where that came from, nobody knows. It was just what they were into. They both played, baseball, softball, respectively, and Keith played football and stuff. But Chris and I, we never played when we were younger. I didn't start playing hockey until I was in high school, doing shit like that. So yeah, nothing was ever forced. And if we wanted something, there was either an instrument in the house, or we would eventually get it.
Now, also too, like when it comes to getting your first instrument, right? So like you get your guitar, is it like, hey dad, can you sit down and teach me chords, or Keith or Carrie or Chris? Or was it kind of like, here's your instrument, here's how you can be self-taught? Like how does that go about?
I almost think it was like, I was self-taught mostly, and it was almost out of necessity, because when I started playing guitar when I was 8 or 9, somewhere around there. And so my dad mainly played bass. He was a drummer. He played bass. He didn't really play guitar. He knew a couple chords and stuff like that. If I needed to tune my guitar or something, he would be able to tune it for me. But he plays drums right-handed. He writes right-handed, but he plays bass left-handed. And he plays it upside down, technically. So, like, how a normal...
He's a huge Beatles mark. That's what it comes down to.
Well, it's partly that, and like, but it's just like, hey, buddy. It's just like, so it was difficult to like have him try to show me things, because I'd have to be looking at him playing it backwards and upside down, and it was kind of tough.
Yeah.
So eventually, it was just kind of necessity that I had to learn how to play on my own. You can't see this right now, but I have AJ and Nate doing some real ridiculous shit on the other side of this booth, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, anyway. We'll have to sneak Nate on to do a magic trick on camera or something.
We should. That would be amazing. I would love that.
We'll end the podcast with that.
Yeah. But so yeah, it was almost like I was almost out of necessity had to be self-taught. And at that time too, like I was 9, so that means Chris was probably like 15 at the time. And at that time, like it was like that classic like fucking brother rivalry thing, we would fight all the time and shit. Like we didn't really get along or anything, so I couldn't like go to him and be like, oh, show me this. But like, some of his friends showed me how to play some stuff, and like eventually like me and Chris got along, and it all worked out. But yeah, dude, I started taking lessons. Man, I might have been like 13, somewhere around there. I started taking lessons locally from fucking local legend here, Tom Grice. The dude is like, he was the go-to. Everyone went to Tom. The guy was incredible. He played in bands with my dad back in the day, so there's always like a tie in there and everything. So that's I was already pretty inclined, like musically inclined. Then I can pick up stuff by ear really well, and I could play well. But I wanted to go and take lessons to get more of like the theory side of things, and like understand what I was actually playing. And that lasted for a while. Throughout high school and stuff, I'd go to these lessons, and then eventually it just kind of died out because I started. I ended up playing in a band, and I kind of just stopped going to lessons, and decided that I would just figure it out on my own, which good and bad, but here we are.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted you to paint that picture is because I think a lot of people maybe on an outside level look at the Collins family or the Collins family adjacent and just be like, man, everyone's so insanely talented in that family. Like it just comes second nature to them. It's like, no, it 100% comes down to the fact of exactly what you said about your dad. It was there. It was never forced.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to do it, you had to work for your instrument to get your instrument. Like the love of music came naturally from your family because your dad's love for the business is just so apparent to him. And
Exactly.
It's almost like being a light in a dark room. Like you're gonna be gravitated to the light, but it's not forced upon you to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything after that, when it comes to your family, and when I say your family, I'm saying like your Harrys, your Converse kids, you know what I mean? Like everyone underneath that, it 100% comes down to you all have a hard work ethic as well, where you're working hard to get to what your accomplishments are.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy. And even then, like, Billy's out there killing it, and he's incredible. And then, Harry is blowing my mind with what he's able to do at such a young age. But then you got Ben, and Ben never really got into the music side of things. But like the kid. He's not a kid anymore. But anyway, like he's a computer genius, basically, man. Yeah. Like he's big into 3D printing and stuff, and like he's one of the smartest people that I know. And we got little Lee now too, that he's figuring out where he's going. I don't know if he's gonna play music. He's into it. Maybe he gets into something else, but it's just
there's a work ethic to the family.
That's what it is. It is.
Yeah, and that's why I always try to paint like when obviously the conversations come up about local music or your local scenes, and like the Collins come up, it's like I think there's a layer to that I think people don't talk enough about, and that is the work ethic side to things. You know what I mean? And now that leads to obviously you in where you are now, but kind of before we get to more of that, but your first band, how do you get involved in your first band? Who's in your first band? What type of music do you play? And
oh man, how I'm trying to think of exactly how the whole thing played out. Like I don't remember exactly how the band formed. I was still in middle school. I don't remember if it was through mutual friends or if it was kind of just like, oh, hey, like there's a bunch of young kids, they're looking for a guitarist. I don't remember how it played out. I do remember the people that I played with though. And it's cool because like a couple of them still play music and stuff. But yeah, dude, it was me and who was it? Brandon Johns was playing drums. Brandon's still playing now.
Fantastic drummer.
Yeah, he's an incredible drummer, man. That dude was a nut when we were younger too. I don't remember how old we were when we started this band. Anyway, Brent Mull singing, Devin Woodford playing bass, Travis. God, why can't I remember Travis's last name right now? It's been so long. Anyway, we had another guitarist with us. And so when I started playing in that band, we were doing stuff like Coheed and Cambria, Simple Plan, Hawthorne Heights, Fall Out Boy. Like this is probably
bread and butter emo, baby.
It was, dude. This was probably like 2003, 2004, 2005, somewhere in that area. So it was like peak, like that was the new music, you know. We were jumping on that. And it was cool, man. We played a bunch of shows and we were really good for like a bunch of, you know, preteen, teenage kids, whatever. Like it was kind of crazy. And from there I kind of just branched out into some other stuff. And I remember our bass player from that band started playing with a bunch of dudes playing in like a metalcore band. And at that time I was like really big into As I Lay Dying and Shadows Fall and Unearth and, you know, bands like that. So I was like, oh shit, metalcore, I want to do that. And so I ended up playing in that band for a long time. And, you know, that band formed into another band. And it just kind of like, you know, it's just a cycle of how that shit goes.
Yeah.
until eventually you've got like a good one.
Yeah. So I always, obviously I come off as a broken record, and it 100% comes down to the fact of how much I do love where we're from and the 570, and especially our little spook side of things. But you're now at a point where you have traveled and you've seen a lot of musicians and a lot of people come and go, and not just from this scene but from other scenes. How honestly blessed are we for our area when it comes to musical talent?
Dude, it's kind of wild. It's like, especially because the scene in like Squamish County and Pottsville and, you know, surrounding areas, it's a relatively small scene. Everyone kind of knows everyone, and there's always like the joke of, you know, certain people like band hopping and, you know, shit like that. But it's like, you know, people band hop and do stuff like that for a reason. It's because they're talented and because there's a demand for them, you know. And but like the amount of talent that's in this area, if we were to put together like a super group of people, it would be unreal, you know. And we've tried. We've definitely tried.
The early interviews at Everyday People scenes, where I was doing a lot of those interviews and I was having a lot of the bands on. The joke was like, erase your band. Like, no disrespect to your band, but if you can form a super group with insert these musicians here, and all these people would come up with these awesome ideas of different bands, and then like pandemic happens and it kind of really kills the scene, and then post-pandemic it still really hasn't bounced back. But then you see shows like Halloween, it kind of became a thing where every Halloween these super bands kind of form. Everyone's like, let's have fun, let's put together a group of people that normally don't play bands together, let's work for a week and let's put together a show. And it's like a cover band of a cover band, so you're getting everyone who normally doesn't play in a band, and you do a set of another band, and every year you switch it up. And then it's like, that just shows you the talent of our area, where it's just like, all right, we've never played together, but we're gonna do a My Chemical Romance set and just do it for Halloween weekend. And it just goes to show like the unbelievable talent musically we have in School County.
Yeah, dude. That's when I put together the Halloween cover show a few years ago, that's kind of what I wanted to do. Was just like, I just wanted, you know, bands that are already formed to do something, or just, you know, get a bunch of random people together in a room and see what happens. And it was a lot of stress organizing that shit, but it ended up being amazing, because like I really only wanted to do one set. I wanted to play one show with some of my favorite people. And so I asked Ryan Soretti to play drums, and I got Chris Bowers to play guitar, and my brother to sing. And I ended up playing bass, and we did a Deftones set. And it was one of the most fun times I've had, because it was just like, you know, we got together a couple times and rehearsed, and it was great. And then some of the other bands that we asked to play, some members couldn't do it or whatever. So I ended up getting asked to play guitar with Mahan Tungo to do the My Chemical Romance set. And I ended up bringing Chris Bowers in on that as well. So it was kind of like, it was like Mahan Tungo plus me and Chris. We only got together to rehearse like 2 or 3 times or something, but it ended up being incredible. But it's just like, it just goes to show, dude, doing 2 nights of shit like that is I would love to do it again. I don't know if I would ever be able to book something like that again. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens, but
Yeah.
maybe not. Maybe not necessarily Halloween, but if I could do something like that, again, I would definitely try it. But like I said, it just goes
here's
to
my
show,
one
like,
gripe. I'm gonna get heat here, Eddie. I'm gonna get a little heat.
Let's see it.
Here's one thing that frustrates me with the local scene, and this does not apply to you, but for how talented our local scene is, they always need someone to do something for them to set up the process for the show to happen. And I think if more of our local bands just had a little more of that work ethic side of things, we would dominate this area, and we would be talking about more bands in this area of taking over and doing things and doing on world tours and killing it in the music scene. But like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, I put together Skookstock and I guessed my way through that whole process. And the whole reason I did it was to hopefully be a spark to say, I'm a fucking idiot who didn't know what he was doing and got this to work. Y'all know the system. Fucking do it. Go get what you're worth. Put shows together, have fun, and make it happen. And then next year, they're like, Tony, can you put together Skookstock too? I was like, no, that was a one-off thing to show you guys you can do it. Like, I was essentially the catalyst to show you guys it can be done, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like, you're talented, get it done. Like, that's my only. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like, there's so many talented people, and if they just didn't wait for somebody else to put it together and just did it themselves, we would dominate this area.
No, you're not wrong, man. There's definitely, like, I guess, like, to put it like the best way possible, like, there's like an initiative issue.
Yes.
Some people don't want to take initiative to do certain things. I get it. I'm sort of the same way, but like, I also, like, if I say I'm gonna do something, like, I'm gonna do it. If I have to fake it through it to do it, I'll figure it out, but eventually it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh my God. The anxiety attacks with Skookstock I would have, like, I'd never want to experience that again. But like,
I do not blame you.
That was so scary. But it was a huge, crucial part for me. Like, honestly, I left that show with the mindset of like, if I wanted to, I definitely could do it again, and I would learn from my mistakes in the past and keep doing it. But that's not my spot in the world. Like, I wanted to do as a motivating factor, and it did. For a while, it did motivate people. The pandemic did hurt a lot of it, but it was definitely fun. But it showcased a lot of our talent.
Great. I had so much fun that day.
Yeah. So you go when it starts going from the point of like doing local music scenes and stuff, and then getting out to that point where now you're traveling and you're a traveling musician. What would your first band be that you were kind of in that shoes? I'm guessing Handguns, but am I wrong with that?
So the first band that did any sort of like traveling out of state was Mountain City, and
okay,
we would go. And we would play pretty much wherever we could, if it was like tri-state area stuff. And then our first like kind of big trek was out to Michigan for this festival called Rockapalooza. And it was fun, man. And it's funny, when we went out to do Rockapalooza, as soon as we got there and we were setting up on stage, Chris Bowers, his guitar amp decided that it just wasn't going to work. And luckily enough, Side Night Sunrise was also playing Rockapalooza. And I got a hold of, somebody with them, and I was like, hey, like, do you guys have a head we can use for this set? And they came through, and we ended up playing the show, and it was fun. It was awesome. But it's just like, man, thank God, some of our fucking homeboys, like, there was another Pottsville band there that was able to help us. But yeah, dude, Now the City was the first like band that I did any kind of traveling with, and it was cool. That was the best part about putting shows together, and a huge reason logistically why I did Skookstock as well is like when the shows at Goodfellas would happen or shows at this place would happen, one of the biggest things I noticed from our scene was that camaraderie of helping each other, and it was because of those situations that you talked about, where the Cyanide Sunrises and all like Crowbots all working together to help each other get to a common goal. And like Skookstock, like essentially no one had to swap anything out. Everything kind of stayed on stage, and the setup and breakdown was so easy, where it was like, I do this all the time. I know I'm not a full wrestling podcast, but when
everyone sets up the ring and knows how to do the job, it makes the job in and out happen so much smoother. And that was one of the things with the local music scene that made me want to do it, was that helping each other when it came down to like, hey, this is all broken, how can we do it?
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, man. Like when there's an event or something like that where there's a common goal, and it's basically get everyone on and off stage as fast as possible so everyone can play the most amount of songs they can, and their set time. If everybody's got a 30-minute set, you can't have another band taking 20 minutes to get off stage when there's a 15-minute changeover.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a common goal, and at that point there's no ego. Everybody kind of puts their shit aside and just make it happen and get it done with. And that's what's awesome about Skookstock, and it was just all friends too. It was everyone from the area. Everyone knows everyone. There's no bullshit. There's no egos. It's just let's make it happen.
Yeah, that made it so much. Like, I knew like the on-stage stuff I didn't have to worry about, because everyone I booked for that show was, like you said, egos went aside and everybody was working together for a common goal. Like, that was super dope.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what is the difference of playing locally and then going on your first tours? Like, what are some positives, pros and cons to doing that lifestyle?
I guess it depends. So like my first touring experience, I ended up being a tech. The first tour I ever did, I was working for a band called Candlelight Red, and I ended up I was monitor tech and guitar tech for those guys, and we did a tour with Kuna Coil, and for like half of the run, and then the other half of the run was with Trapped. This was 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, something like that. So like my first tour was from a different perspective than I've been used to my entire life. So like you kind of see things differently, like as a tech doing that stuff as opposed to a musician. But I think with the level that tour was, everyone was kind of like, the band dudes were just as much of a help as like, anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it was kind of crazy. Like my first tour playing was with Cyanide Sunrise. So like that was different too, because, then you're just taking care of yourself. You go into these venues, and sometimes, there's staff that's super helpful. Sometimes there's staff that does not give a shit that you're there at all, and you kind of just got to play it. You got to be able to fucking read the room. If somebody doesn't want to deal with you, you got to be like, yeah, fuck you. All right, that's fine. I'm gonna do my shit. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. It's just there's a lot of nuance, I guess you can say.
Yeah. So let's dive into that real quick. You said Cyanide. We got little microphones there.
Oh, shit, trivia started. Let me see if I can. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll try our best here. So when you go from going to traveling, I think it's gonna be tough to do.
Let me see if I can figure this out a little bit.
I'm gonna mute you real quick.
All right, go for it.
All right. Give Eddie a second here. If we can't continue this, we'll wrap it up there and possibly do a part 2. In the future. But yeah, it's with trivia going. Give me a thumbs up when there's a moment there, but maybe we can wrap and then come back another time. Or we'll figure this out. But I appreciate Eddie for his time. Like I said, he works super, super hard. I think that the main part of this podcast that I really wanted to accomplish here was showing that it nothing comes easy in life. You're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to work really, really hard, regardless if you come from a local scene or a local family that, is very, very well accomplished. Accomplishments don't come just handed to you. You have to work for it. And that's one of the things with Eddie and his family and everyone associated with him that pushes me to do what I do, even though it's a podcast aspect, is I surround myself with really hardworking people to motivate me to keep my head above the water, to keep grinding for my personal goals, even though I can't pick up an instrument or do what I do. but yeah, like I cherish these conversations. Like I definitely am known more for this channel for the wrestling side of things, and I think a lot of people know me for wrestling commentating and interviewing wrestling personalities. But my entire start of a podcaster, of an interviewer, was interviewing my local music scene and local bands, and hearing their stories, and like going in and learning how to set up and tear down bands of local cover bands or local other bands. Like I didn't know what XLR cables were, or how to set up microphones or set up sound or anything like that, but I just went and learned. And a lot of where I am now comes from the local 570 music scene, and it means a lot to me. And I think it shaped me to go into the world of wrestling and be able to handle things because of the lessons I learned through our local music scene. So it was super it's humbling, and it's super I'm very grateful for it. I really, really appreciate my time in that local part. I don't know how we are doing with trivia. We're still filibustering. We're doing it. All right. Yeah, but yeah. We have a lot of people in the chat saying thank you guys for joining in. K-Tech Productions is in the chat. My buddy Kai. I think we've seen Lily, C. Henry. Thank you guys all so much for jumping in here and doing this. Make sure you check out Eddie's stuff as well on Instagram. He's like, I'm telling you, it's a fun follow, just seeing him going to all these different places, working with so many cool bands. Working with bands that this guy obviously was obsessed with as a kid, sneaking out of his house and taking car rides to Philly to go see Gwar, and then working for Gwar has got to be a cool thing. There's so many questions we can get into, but like I said, it's yep, yeah, definitely. I didn't want to put your government name out there, Keith, but I if you want to, go ahead. I try not to, when someone comes in with a name, unless they're cool with me saying their name, I try not to do it. But yeah. Yeah, so it's awesome, man. Like working with these bands and seeing these bands, it's like on my level going to a show and then getting to see like an old wrestling legend I used to watch on TV or idolize, and then you get to work with them hand in hand or call their match. Like he's tuning guitars for bands like Gwar now. Like that's fucking crazy to me. Like that's like meeting fucking Shawn Michaels to me. Like if I walked into a show like, you're gonna call a Shawn Michaels match, I would probably cry, and then I would get the job done. All right, let's bring Eddie back in. Oh, I think you're muted on your end now. Yeah, I think when you tapped your ear, you might have muted your thing.
Is it working now?
Yes, much better. Yes.
Okay.
That was some filibustering right there. Huh?
it might be a little choppy, but I'll figure it out.
You're good. Well, let's kind of let's put a button in so you can enjoy your food and hang out with your beautiful soon to be wife. I don't want to keep you all night, but if you were to give any advice to people chasing a music dream or any dream at all, what would be some advice you would give them?
Man,
just wait longer is a quote from
hold on.
Yep.
I'm trying to make this work.
You're good. If you talk now, you're fine.
Hold up. Is this working?
Yep.
It's working?
Yep.
Okay. Man, so for anybody that's trying to chase a music dream or whatever, I mean, it's a tough thing to say. I mean, I had a dream of touring and doing stuff, and it's basically just like, it's just your work ethic, man. You know, you can do anything that you want to do, and I hate how cliche that sounds and how fucking school fucking motivational speaker that sounds, but it's like it's 100% true, man. Like if you put yourself in the environment that you want to be in, and you train your mind, and you train mentally, and you learn the skills that you need to learn to do the things, like nothing is impossible. But
yeah,
when it comes to music, and I'm sure it's the same with the wrestling world and shit like that, like it's kind of all about who you know, for one, and are you cool? Are you can you hang? Can you be in a bus with people for 7 weeks at a time and not fucking lose your mind? And are you easy to get along with? Like all that shit matters so much.
Mm-hmm.
And and you know, you're more likely to get a gig if you're kind of mediocre at what you do, but you're really cool to hang with and you're a good person, than somebody who's really good at what they do and is a total dickhead. You know,
Yep.
like and that's what it is. So it's just like, if there's anybody that like is wanting to get into the business and stuff, it's just like, just learn what you need to learn, you know, if for what skill you want to do. I wanted to be a guitarist and a bass player, but I ended up getting the opportunity to be a tech. And so I learned what I could. I learned how to set up guitars. I learned how to do intonation and neck relief, and you know, learn how to solder, which came in handy on this last tour. Which is a whole story in itself, which is kind of crazy. But it's just like
And also your skills of hockey helped you out this season on a tour as well, because when people rush the stage, you have to go and body check them.
Dude, man, I wish people would fucking stop coming on stage, because I don't want to do it anymore. I don't like being violent. I don't like that shit. But I don't know who you are. You're coming into my house. You're coming into, you know, these dudes on stage. This is their house. You know, and you weren't
should have
invited,
Germaned them.
so you're getting taken out. Man, if I'm ever in the position where I can, you better believe I'm gonna fucking test out my German suplex skills.
Yeah. German suplex is where it's at. You got to land a German or give him an atomic drop. Just pick him up.
Next one's getting a fucking rock bottom, buddy.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Listen, I'll let you get out of here. Where can people support you, or contact you, or if you want them to? I don't know.
Man, just this Instagram. It's just my name, at Eddie Collins. Fucking follow on. I don't post as much as I you know, would like to or whatever, but you know, I'll post some shit from tour and you know, do whatever here and there, maybe some live stuff, and every once in a while I'll stream on Twitch, you know, from my guitar tech world view. And if you want to watch on Twitch, my handle's at Shreddy Collins. So check that out.
That's awesome. I appreciate your time, man. Okay.
Yeah. Dude, if you want to do a part 2, let me know. We can dive into this shit more.
All right.
I didn't realize trivia was gonna be so fucking loud tonight.
It's all right. Well, listen, go win some trivia. Tell everyone I said hi. I miss everybody. It's been too long. Give Amber a big hug and kiss for me. I miss her too. And enjoy your night out. And I'm glad you're home and have some fun. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, buddy. Hit me up. Let me know when you want to do this again. I'm sorry this got fucked up.
That's all right, man. That's part of the deal. It's what happens. All right. Take it easy, bud.
See you, bud. I love you. Peace.
Love you too. There's Eddie, everybody. I just want to wrap up real quick. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. The ABJ podcast. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up this month. I'll give you guys a quick rundown of what's going on. I will be back again on Tuesday with Nick Clark. Nick Clark is a artist. You can find him on Instagram at WrestlePop. He does a lot of really cool pop inspired art. It's horror movie based, pro wrestling. Super talented. I own a couple pieces of his art. He's really good. He's out of the Philadelphia area. He'll be on Tuesday. On Thursday, Dante will be back, and we'll be doing a review of Late Night with the Devil. So I'm super excited for that one. And then on Friday, we'll be back doing another horror review with Harleen Lopez, and we'll be covering the movie Saw. So we're doing Saw 1. The goal is eventually to get through the entire franchise, but we'll see how that goes. But we're going to start there. If you guys can support, merchandise really helps me out. These are 4 logos that are available from now till the 13th. Once the 13th rolls around, these 4 logos will go away and a new batch will pop up, but the traditional ABJ podcast and all that stuff will always be available. So keep up on social media to find out what merchandise will be dropping around those times. If you want to head over to the Ben Frank Connection, they have some cool merchandise. There's the Bullet Club inspired ones. There's some title belt wrestling ones, and there's exclusive ABJ merchandise that you can only get there. And it helps build up the Ben Frank Connection. So make sure you go check them out on all social medias, the Opinion City Podcast, as well as Ben Frank Connection. That's all I really got here on my end. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Here's some music by another one of those amazing members of that family, Billy Trey and the Converse Kid.
Hey, thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.